Hey there, CUT Collective. It's Reverend Sheree, and I'm here with a very special Sunday Sermon Rewind. We are rewinding on the lesson sermon from November 3rd, 2024. But we just can't let the moment get by. We have just had a very, very emotionally intense election yesterday in the United States. And so we're going to deal with the election as well. And I think that as we have this conversation, if you didn't get an opportunity to see the lesson sermon, Christ Universal Temple from November 3rd, I want to encourage you to watch it now that we've been through the election cycle, like now that we've gone through election day and the results. I encourage you to go back because this rewind is going to show you how prophetic, how profound God is, because that message prepared us. And so I want us to be able to hear it in this frame of mind. Joining me today is Reverend Derrick So Reverend Derrick gave the lesson sermon on Sunday. And then, I called in the troops, like, come on, we all need to come here and deal with this together. And so Gavin Jackson is with us as well, who's the COO of Christ Universal Temple. And, he's been on the collective on the Rewind before, and we'll be back. You gotta work with Gavin to get him on here. So I'm going to bring everybody on and we're going to dive into this. I want you to go ahead right before I bring the guys in. I want you to go ahead and like and share this video, because we know that there is a healing that is needed right now. And 5 friends who could use listening and being a part of a conversation about the election, about what's going on in our country right now from a spiritual perspective. So go ahead and share this. Go ahead and let people know that we are right here live right now, and that your questions, your energy, your concerns, all of that, we are open and available to help you and to support you right where you are. All right. So without further ado, let me bring the crew on. Let me bring the crew on. Hey. How are you guys?
What's going on, Reverie? Doing fantastic. How are you?
Oh, great. It's been a full day. It's been a very, very full day, a wonderful day. I have spent maybe 6 hours today on Zooms with supporting people and dealing with the election emotionally. So I'm smiling right now because I have just been in the space, in the zone, working with the power and presence of God real deep and strong today. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Good for you.
How are you guys? So tell me what's going on. How are you feeling today? Oh, wait. Before I even go there, I want to bring us in. And then I got an activity. You guys up for an activity?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask Rev to pray us in, and then thank you. Continue to share this message. Continue to tag people. Let them know that we are live, and we're going to get started.
All right. And so wherever you are, first, thank you for joining us. Also, thank you, Reverie, for always facilitating this collective space so that we might continue to just stretch ourselves into all that we are divinely designed to be. And I just want to invite you to take a moment to turn within. And this is our opportunity to center ourselves. And in centering ourselves, we get to close out the noise. We get to close out the distractions. We get to settle our emotions. And we get to be in the presence of God consciously and intentionally. I want you to take a couple of good, deep centering breaths as you breathe in deeply and exhale slowly. Again, breathing in deeply, taking in the divine activity of God. Exhaling, releasing all toxins, all blocks, all negative buildup. We rejoice and give thanks for another opportunity to say yes to the divine activity seeking to express in, through, and as each and every one of us. We know that as the whirlwind may be happening around us, there is peace in the eye of the storm. I invite you to engage that center of peace. I invite you to reclaim for yourself your divine agency. I invite you to remember the authority and dominion that you have over your thoughts and emotions. I invite you to remember that God is the source. And the true government, the spiritual government, is on God's shoulders. As we continue to walk in our divine capacity, as we continue to say yes to our divine potential, we find that nothing is too hard for us because nothing is too hard for God. And oftentimes we draw to ourselves experiences that demand that we stand on the truth we know. Our founder, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, would say that we have to stand on our own big two spiritual feet. And what a wonderful time, what a wonderful occasion to stand on our own two big spiritual feet. The feet of understanding, the feet of faith, the feet of prayer, the feet of being grounded in the realization that everything we need, we have within our own souls, and everything we desire, we have the capacity to develop the consciousness for.
Yes, yes.
We rejoice in this realization. We are always at choice and we are never without power. We bless our country. We bless our decision. And we bless the individual and collective responsibility each and every one of us has to make the most of what God has put within us. We bless everyone and leave them free to their decisions. And we remember that the true work is minding our decisions, for out of those decisions flow the issues of life. And so we give thanks for this time together, for this collective awareness, for this light that is being sparked right here and right now, so that we might continue to be illumined as we walk this day, this moment, this season, this divine opportunity. There is a seed of good in everything. My commitment, personally, is to identify the seed of good and make the most of it. I invite you to do the same. Amen and amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for that prayer.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I am so grateful to be in this space. So first I want to do a quick confession session, right? So when things happen in my life that I don't enjoy, I tend to very quickly find the good in them. And sometimes it sounds like a good thing. It sounds like a good thing to find the good in it. But sometimes I don't acknowledge the feeling I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. I run real quick to let me find the good in this, right? Mm-hmm. And so I challenge myself today to feel my feelings so that I can process them, because I don't want to just suppress them. I want to be able to transform that energy, right? Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I did that before I started to support people, because it's nothing like somebody who's not emotionally in touch with you and you're trying to support them. So, mm-hmm. So that's my confession session for the day. There may be another, mm-hmm. But I want to ask you how you're feeling. Now, I know your feelings may have shifted throughout the day, but I'm gonna post what I found. This is something I pulled because I work with feeling charts with my coaching clients, but this one I got from the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective. So the language of the feelings are a little bit more in line for the people. So I want to share this with you all. If I know what I'm doing right, let's see.
I bet you can get it.
I know I'm real good at things. I am. So if you're watching us on, if you're watching us on YouTube online, you'll see us fine. If you just happen to be listening, I'm gonna talk through it, so we're gonna all be okay. But this is the emotional chart. Are you guys seeing it now? Seeing the chart?
No, I don't see it.
You don't see it? Okay, that's not fair. Let's try again. So the reason I'm pulling this chart up is because I think that sometimes we can have feelings about something. And what we do is, it's like, I'm upset about this. But really and truly, there's a deeper feeling about it. And I think that sometimes we just got to land on, what is the feeling? What am I exactly feeling right now? Is the chart popping up now?
No.
All right, I'm just gonna speak on the chart. So one of the feelings in the chart is I'm feeling heated, joyful, shocked, sad, peaceful, and then one is called beast mode, right? What is called beast mode? So tell me of those feelings, where are you feeling? Shook, heated, joyful, sad, peaceful, beast mode. And for y'all to listen, put that in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling.
All right. Who's going first?
Gavin, go first. Let me hear you. Let me hear you what you're feeling.
You know, at 3 a.m, so I stayed up. You know, I watched the coverage of the election here in the States all the way through. You know, hopeful. Even when it got to, you know, my preferred candidate had to win every single state left to even have a chance. I'm just you know, an optimist at heart. And then when it was clear that that was just not going to happen, it was, my initial was shook. Like I was shook because my intellectual mind went through all the possible iterations of what I thought could happen with the winning candidate that I didn't support, what that can mean for the economy, for the military, for, you know, my 2 sons who are still teenagers, you know, for my wife who works for the federal government, everything. Like my mind just went all the way to the point I had to force myself to sleep. But shook was my initial reaction. Then when I woke up, you know, I came to myself, as scripture says.
And then how you feeling now, though? So if you came to yourself,
now it's beast mode. Oh, it's beast mode. It's spiritual beast mode. It is, you know, it's bone crusher. I ain't never scared. It is what it is at this point. So I've always had some spiritual swagger, and I really, really, really don't like being afraid. Like it bothers me when I feel fear. And so the trampoline of that to me is to just really lean into my spiritual confidence. So that's where I've been for the last 7-8 hours.
Okay, beast mode. We moved to beast mode. All right.
Rev, what about you? Spiritual beast mode, though.
Spiritual beast mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rev,
so I'm of the mind that you can experience more than one emotion at a time, right? Based upon the way in which your thinking shifts. And so just candidly speaking, really from so I wasn't a trooper like Gav, so I didn't stay with it. I probably turned in about 9:30. Like I just didn't want to hear all of it, and I didn't want to really go to sleep on it like that. So once I saw the result, I wasn't shook, but I was shocked, right? Like just because I expected a different result. And so having to recalibrate from that expectation to what the majority determined, like it just is what it is. In terms of what I've been experiencing after that moment up to this present moment is joy, peace, and beast mode, right? Because from my perspective, and I shared this with someone who texted me early in the day, and they shared that you know, they were really upset and had just been crying all morning. And I shared with them that it's perfectly okay to cry and release the emotion like that. Like you had one expectation, that expectation didn't come through. It's not uncommon for one of the emotional responses to be that, and for it to express itself in tears. What I also shared with them was, now the bigger thing you have to determine is, what will you do after your tears dry up? Right. So, and I think that lends itself to the conversation about what does it look like when you're in beast mode, for whatever the objective is, right? Like, my beast mode is to, in Kwanzaa, which is approaching soon, one of the days is Kuji Jagalea, right? The right to self-determination. Like, I refuse. I flat out refuse to let any result, whether it's the result I want or the result that we got, determine my future for me. Like, I'm just, I've had an experience like that before, and when I was 19, I determined to never have an experience like that again. And so I fully own my agency. I fully own the realization that I have authority and dominion, and my commitment is to use that to not only design the life I desire, but to support those who might be a little hazy and punch drunk through here,
Yeah.
in whatever ways I can, because I certainly recognize that this kind of result does or can create a lot of fear, trepidation, concern for many of us. So I get it. And just in terms of what I feel, like, I want to feel good, right? I want to feel good. That's my commitment. I want to feel good. And we know that good is a Teutonic word for God. So I want to feel after God. And if being in an emotional state tied to the result doesn't give me that, then I recognize that I get to shift myself out of that. I get to transform or transcend that, so that what I'm feeling works for me, and what the feelings I want to generate, the feelings I want to create. So that's where I am.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm finding that it's, what I want to do is to thank you all for sharing your feelings, because again, sometimes even especially in the New Thought tradition, it'll feel like a failure if I feel disappointed because I didn't trust God, or whatever the story we tell ourselves is. And I want to acknowledge those in the chat who've shared what their feelings are. Ernestine says she's feeling peaceful. Deborah says she's feeling disappointed and glad that it's over, right? I'm glad. I'm telling you, I was getting about 50 texts a day.
I said
so
she's still hurt.
Yeah, I'm still hurt. So it is absolutely important, I think, for us not to bypass our feelings. I don't know if this is there. It's tiny, but it's there, right? So the reason I'm pulling this feeling chart, is because you can see I named 5 feelings. I named those 5 basic ones: the heated, shocked, joyful, sad, peaceful, beast mode. But if you expand that chart to say I'm shook, there's more feelings that come up. And so I am actually encouraging you all, if you are just in a space of not feeling settled in yourself, if you don't feel a sense of contentment, that you identify your feeling, right? And so saying I'm feeling shook, because I love that they said the word shook, but that's like I'm feeling confused and rejected. I may be feeling helpless. I may be feeling insecure or anxious. I may be embarrassed. Maybe you went all in on a specific candidate and your candidate didn't win, right? It's overwhelming to think of what we're going to do next. And so I want to encourage you to locate your feeling, because what the lesson from Sunday really does is helps us to process our feelings, because we want to base every thought and feeling on the truth. And so you can't get to the truth if you don't know what you are feeling. How do you know where you're moving? And I have a theory about our affirmations and denials, which was the heart of the lesson, is that you can create powerful affirmations and denials when you know what you're working with. So if I know that I'm working with a feeling of embarrassment, then what truth do I need to know about myself now? And then I can begin to work with it. But let me not jump ahead. I want to I pulled some clips, but I'm curious in terms of people that you've been encountering. What's been the outside of just, you said somebody was shocked. What are some of the other spaces people are working with? And how have you supported them?
Well, so a couple things. One, in my experience, most everyone that that I've spoken with, texted with, been working in support of, are true students, right? And one of the things that I just think is important for us to remember is to like work to avoid abandoning our truth in moments like this, right? Because it's there to help ground us and guide us through the storm, right? Like that's the time that's not the time to take off your armor, right? That's the time to make sure you're fully girded in your armor. And so yes, that may be a time when you have to start reciting to yourself and remembering to yourself and singing to yourself those things that week in and week out have been poured down into you, the classes that you've had, the time you spent growing up in the ministry, as a was working with what we would call a Johnny Coleman baby, who is a full grown adult making moves out in the world. And like you have to go back and get it. Sometimes you have to call on it, you have to make it work for you, right? It seems passe to say it works if you work it, particularly during a time like this. But why not put it to work and find out? You know what I'm saying? Like see if you can really shift your emotional state by changing what you're focusing on. Just see if it works. Grab a piece of it. Grab the piece of principle you can recall and pull at that string and keep pulling at the string until it starts to unwind and you start to reconnect with the truth that you believe. And and so I'm certainly not attempting to minimize anyone's experience, but I do think it's important to remind us of what we have. And we say the primary cause of suffering is forgetfulness. So if the primary cause of suffering is forgetfulness, then the primary cause of salvation is remembering. So it's really vital that in moments like this, or when in the moments wherein life brings you a result you're dissatisfied with, right? A result you had not anticipated, because life happens. And when life happens that way, in disappointment, frustration, hurt, anger, fear, when those things reveal themselves to you, once you've determined that you've gotten all out of that, everything out of that emotion, good, bad, and different. Once you determine that you've gotten all that you can get out of that emotion, you cried your last tear. Now it's time to get back on that horse of truth and ride it to your shift.
And I think that there's so many little spaces, right? I think that if for everyone, anytime I say I don't get my way, and this is in any way, when I don't get my way, there's a feeling I have about it, right? So 3-year-old Sheree is there, and apparently she pitched a fit when she didn't get her way, right? And so when I don't get my way, when there's something I want, I feel like I deserved it. I feel like it's right. When I feel real justified in it, right? I begin to act from that space of I'm just mad that I'm not getting my way. And so one of the things that I challenge myself with is to recognize that we all have a right to our own opinions about things. And so I have been working with people trying to reconcile close people in our life who have differing political opinions. And how do you reconcile someone that you care about having such a variant in terms of what they value in a political candidate? Because I'm love, and I love you, but we don't agree in this space. So Gavin, share with me, what do you think?
Before you say that, Gav, yes, Ella, part of what we're talking about is what we're feeling or experiencing in terms of the feeling nature on the backside of the results we got from the election.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
no, for me, I tried to shift because I love history. And a lot of the anxiety around the outcome of the election was that one candidate is going to take us back to a time in history that is not comfortable for everybody in America. And so I was pointing out to people, like, first of all, there's always been just crappy governments and crappy leaders. Always, everywhere. The total history of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there have always been people who not only survived, but thrived. And so earlier today, I was pointing people to Madam C.J. Walker, who a century ago was a Black woman living in America, widely recognized as the first female of any race, self-made millionaire in the world. Any other woman that was a millionaire in the world was inheritance or marriage. First self-made millionaire, but she lived in legal apartheid in America. The governmental system did not recognize her as a full human. But as Reverend Wells said, she moved in a self-determination that saw her as the 17th chapter of John says, she's in the world, but not of it. Mm-hmm. She refused to be, confined by what was going on socially and politically. Our own founder, Reverend Coleman, she founded Christ Universal Temple in 58. 1958 in America, the South is in legal apartheid, the North is in de facto apartheid, and in 58 was the year that Emmett Till was killed. So the news of her day was saturated with how bad things are. Mm-hmm. This image of this young boy, it's everywhere. It's on the radio. It's in every newspaper. It's in the new medium of television. It would have been no way for Reverend Coleman to avoid that news. But she separated herself through her God-given assignment and never was constrained by what was happening governmentally, what was happening socially. It was a self-determination, and I'm sticking with that, to found, what I think is the greatest spiritual institution in the world without regard to what was going on. But that practice of being in it, but not of it, of some things being, as we say, none of your spiritual business. Mm-hmm. There's some things that are your physical business, your political business, but it's none of your spiritual business. And the outcome of elections is none of your spiritual business.
All right. So there's so many places we could go.
Reed, I think there's some value in, we're getting some really good comments and questions. I think there's some value in our working with some of that.
Mm-hmm. So first, I'll just, again, not acknowledging those who share what they're feeling. Velma's talking about how she feels love and peace and kindness, help, and that power of the of affirmation right there to affirm what it is that you want to experience. And the other thing that also came up too, and I was sharing this with some friends, like in a very specific way yesterday, is that these are jobs, that this is where someone goes to work. And there's a climate that you're walking into at your work. And somebody hit on that. Deborah hit on that in the chat, that working for the federal government, that mm-hmm. presidential elections, I'm sure, have always been a source of some concern for those working in government, because who's in power may determine whether or not you have a job at the end of that, for that next season. So I definitely am holding everybody in that space who understands the nature of working for the government in a space of prayer, as they're managing right now and opening up new doors of opportunity for themselves. Let me see, which one am I missing, Rev?
Kay had a couple of good, insightful comments toward the end there, I think.
Yeah, so we have, she says, okay, let me just share it so that I can read it with, let's read it all together. Right? She said, I was not surprised. The 2025 project is what needs to be addressed. This was just a distraction for what is being discussed behind the smoke and mirrors. We have a leader come 6/6/25 if it was in your face. So here's what I know about the truth, right? Is that you cannot suppress the truth.
Right.
And sometimes when things come to our awareness, like I've been working with Everything Works Together for Good, right? And sometimes in the midst of everything working together for good, it may not feel good. And I because I'm a mom and I love childbirth stories, but there's a point in childbirth where it is like the worst part of it. It's the most intense part of it. And if that were the only part of the story you focused on, and not that there was good that came out of that struggle, for those of you who bodybuild, right? There's a point in trying to build muscle where it hurts. You're tearing your muscle down, but it is for something good is coming. There's a stronger muscle emerging. And so when these things emerge, these plans emerge, that's darkness coming into the light. It cannot withstand the light. And so what we have to do is not shy away from what comes up, those things that come up, those things that surface, to not shy away from them, but be able to tell the truth about them and to them and to ourselves.
Don't shy away. I see someone talking about the legal issues, that come with the politics of it. What I'm saying is inform your moves by spiritual consciousness. It's not like we're ignoring facts, but we are dealing with facts from a higher level. We're dealing with facts from truth. And through that elevated consciousness, it allows you to see the whole landscape. Like you said, instead of just focusing on one part of the journey, as you're describing in childbirth, or one point on the map, or one point in the story, it allows you to see the whole field of play. And as you kind of pull back in truth, you really get to see how you navigate whatever these seas are, whatever these mountains are, because you see the whole map from a spiritualized eyesight. And so that's what I'm leaning into and encouraging people to lean into. Not saying it's easy, but that's our work. That's our assignment.
Yeah. And one of the other things we get to see, Gav, is what we add to that. Yes, right. Sir. Like if it's a demonstration of the collective awareness, right? And I'm a point of awareness in that demonstration. What did I add to that?
Yes.
Right. Not that it's politics I agree with, but where am I trying to regress when the divine expression is trying to push me forward? Right. Where am I identifying people who are less than based upon their age, their gender, their socioeconomic status, their education, their profession? Where am I? Where are the points of opportunity presenting themselves in me, just reflected in others, that's giving me an opportunity to work on the revealing of the Christ within me? Right there, if the world is a reflection, if it's a mirror, and the mirror is only presenting back to me what I'm projecting into it, then there is no value in attempting to correct what I see in the mirror. The opportunity is to correct the person who's standing in front of it. Or as Michael Jackson would say, I'm starting with the man in the mirror, or the woman in the mirror, asking them to change their ways. And so, there is some value in looking at what I do individually to become better on the other side of this experience. That's where the power to change is. That's also where the power to become active, maybe in ways that I've never even imagined, exists. Right?
Yeah, there's a word that was used today, and was about being activated, right? And so, sometimes when we get to one space, we begin to say like the activation is over. Like, okay, I've done the work, but no, we just got some feedback now, right? And so whatever feedback and how you interpret that feedback, now it's like, okay, so now what's next? What's next? And this lesson is about the value and power of your thinking. And I tried to scrub. I'm going to play this clip because I think foundationally it'll be really important. I'm going to play a clip from the sermon. And I want to just reiterate the power of going to church real quick. This is just a commercial for church, period, because sometimes you don't know what's coming your way. And the message that you get at your Sunday service, at this Sunday service, is preparatory. It's like you're getting all you need in order to step into what is coming your way. And I think that this was one of those prophetic moments where, well, you know how you hear the message just for you, where you get what you need in order to be able to move forward and make good choices. So here is just a bit of a recap. And just so that you know, we're talking about the unbreakable foundation. And this series is a basic truth series. So we're talking about the omnipresence of God, the divinity of humankind, the value and power of thought, practicing the presence of God, and the law of demonstration. And so here it is in a nutshell.
We understand who and what God is, we can better understand our innate divinity, yes? When we understand our divinity, we can better understand our personal power, yes? When we understand our personal power, we can better understand why it needs to be anchored in spiritual practices. And when we understand how to practice the presence of God, we can better appreciate how to make demonstrations in our life, world, and affairs. So we made the argument 2 weeks ago that we've been given principle as a gift by which to make the most out of the divine potential we've been given.
I love that. I love that.
Okay, go ahead, Gavin. Keep going.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying, I love that as a preparation for what may or may not come. You have to gird yourself with a self knowledge against whatever winds are going to blow, and that just like you said, let's get in church so we can be prepared.
Yeah, and listen, they record church every Sunday now. Like you could go and push replay. That is a beautiful thing. Okay,
gotta give you.
So I wasn't planning to play that, but let me go and play this clip. I want to say this before as a setup, Rev.
That is a good one. No, that is a good one.
As a setup, that we're talking about the power that you have over your mind, which means the power you have over your experience. And instead of just basing your reality on what is happening in your life, we're training ourselves to get in order, which is to base our reality on what is true of God, on principle. And so right thinking followed by right action is what he shared in the middle of what I'm getting ready to play, right? Right thinking followed by right action. And so you gave this quote, and I just wanted to say it. You said, "My welfare begins with what I give my thought potential to." My welfare begins with what I give my thought potential to. And so
just say that just a couple more times, because that's good to hear, right? That's as we're going through and as we're trying to support and help others manage their mental and emotional states, because it might be important for you, depending upon where you are, to maybe not stand in support of someone in a given moment, right? Like there's a tree that's behind my house, and there's a tree that was next to it that's failed, and the tree that fell has all of its weight on the healthy tree. Well, the healthy tree is starting to die now because it's supporting not only its burden, it's trying to support the burden of this other tree that is no longer capable of supporting itself. So before you accept the weight of somebody else's disappointment, disbelief, pain, hurt, anger, frustration, make sure that you are, yes, girded up, so that you're strong enough to support yourself. Because if you all both break down, then perhaps nobody gets what they need out of the opportunity.
Yeah. Yes. So this one, because when we think about how we create our experience, we often think about the positive things we do. Like I can, I want to build wealth, I want to build business. And so I'm using the principle in that way. But I think this clip talks about, he said, why do bad things happen? Right? Why do things happen that I don't enjoy? And so I wanted, I titled this clip Weeds. Let's I'm going to play it. It's short.
Because how many of you know the weeds will grow in your garden whether you want them to or not? You don't plan for them, but they show up. And somewhere in the scripture it says the weeds and the tares will grow together. So the fact that I ignore the weeds does not mean that they won't grow and overtake my yard.
So I'm gonna play this next clip really quickly, but I wanted to oh gosh. Okay, I do. I want you to talk just a little bit more about that, about the idea of the weeds growing in your garden.
Right. And so and the scripture is actually the wheat and the tares.
And the tares.
but I was in the spirit, so you got to forgive me. The tares are actually the weeds.
The weeds. Right.
But so in that, just before that clip, I said something, and then I said to the I said to the body, both in the room and online, now let me give you the downside.
Right.
And or maybe I asked the question, now can I give you the downside? And someone said no, right? And I'm like, no. Let me give you the full picture, because life happens on both poles, and you want to be able to navigate life when it happens on a pole that is not the pole you expected it to happen on. We all want the positive pole, but sometimes, well, not even sometimes, in order to get the positive pole, you also have to get the negative pole. It doesn't matter how thin you slice a magnet, you get both the negative and positive pole in that magnet. So if you want the magnet, if you want to be able to attract, then you've got to be willing to accept both poles with it. So yeah, I need to give you the upside, and I need to give you the downside, so that you know how to manage and navigate when you grab the negative side of the pole, or the negative pole of the magnet.
Yes. So keeping that in mind, right? There's a concept that I wish there was a better word for it, because I think that it sounds a little confusing sometimes. But this concept of chemicalization that we talk about, which you share in this clip. So I'm going to play the clip, and then we'll talk a little bit about it, because I think that when you have good intentions and things don't work according to how you wanted them to play out, that sometimes can create a crisis of faith. It creates like, well, if I did what God told me to do and I didn't get the outcome, then there must be something wrong with me or wrong with God, right? So to understand sometimes, I like metaphysics, because we can get into the mechanics of how we work and how we think. So I want you all to listen to this one, and then we'll talk about this. I'm gonna play just 2 more clips. So if y'all hang in there with me, I want to make sure that that one, you got to go watch the whole thing. But I want to make sure that we get a chance to really unpack these last 2.
When the new possibility for good bumps against my old beliefs for limitation, there is conflict on the inside. And whenever this new possibility for how life can be is considered and contemplated in the mind, some negative belief is disturbed. And with that resistance comes commotion in the soul. And that uneasiness is a tug of war that requires one of 2 things. Either I let the possibility die, either I let the goal die, either I let the dream die, and I let the negativity or the negative belief win, or I accept that there is a new possibility for what God can do in, through, and as me, and then I start to attract my internal forces to move on that thing.
Okay.
I think that requires some deep introspection, like almost stepping out of yourself and looking at your own thoughts.
Mhm.
Like, what have I thought about for the last 60 minutes, 60 seconds, 2 hours, the whole day, so that you don't, allow that conflict, the bad side or the unwanted side of the conflict, to win.
Yeah.
Like, I just had to decide today, like, I'm not going to spend more time thinking about Donald Trump than I'm thinking about the love of my own family, that I'm thinking about my own health, that I'm thinking about my own wealth, that I'm thinking about the success of my church. I am just going to intentionally move my thoughts. Because if I don't move my own thoughts, I'm dealing with this conflict that Reverend Wells is talking about. But I have the choice.
Yeah.
So if I have to
Yeah.
listen to some music, if I have to turn on a slapstick comedy, if I have to go for a run, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to maintain my control over my thinking. Because he doesn't get to own my thinking. In the 24 hours a day I have to control my thinking.
Yeah. Kai said that was a good clip, Rev. That was a good clip.
Right on. Yeah, no, and you're for all of us, like your mind, if we don't direct it, it will run away with us. Right? It just will. And so we have to remember that we have agency over our minds, not the other way around.
Right.
And your mind will follow your direction and instruction if you provide it. If you do not, it will land with every impulse, every urge, every fear, every discomfort. And the more I contemplate that, the more of that I'm inviting into my space. Just like the more I contemplate how I'm going to love my family, how I'm going to focus on shifting myself out of this, how I'm going to focus on making sure that even in the midst of this, I'm doing better at when it's over than I was before it began. Like, that's a possibility too. That's an option too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's an option.
And I just want to encourage, because sometimes the hardcore metaphysicians in the room, you may not feel like you're measuring up, and it's okay if this is a moment by moment reach, right? It's okay if at one point you feel real sure about the power and presence of God moving through and as you, right? And then sometimes it's like, woe is me, what is happening? What's going on in this world? Like, you got to keep taking yourself back. And I think that the one thing that Gavin mentioned that I'm real strong about, and I can always tell how good my practice is by how I'm performing, right? Is to have a spiritual practice, right? So that I was because I got up this morning and went to the gym because that's my practice. I didn't feel like it, and I could have given myself every excuse to lay in bed because it's that kind of day, right? But I got up, and so one of the guys that was in there after the class was like, I don't even feel like working out. I'm just going through the motions, right? Now, what happens when you're just going through the motions? That's going to be what you practice. And sometimes that may be all you know to lean on. I know that if I'm not feeling great, that I need to shift my awareness, which is what Gavin talked about, right? That I need to put my attention on the love of my family. I'm not going to give myself over to this idea that if I'm worried about something, it means I care. Because that's why, sometimes we worry so much because it's so important. But no, love is what's most important. Love is what will transform this situation. So your practice, I just want to encourage you all, if you're feeling, I'll throw the feeling chart back up again, but if you're feeling disconnected, if you're feeling shook, that look at your practice. How can I begin to practice, I wouldn't say the presence of God, but practice, how can I pray and affirm and practice being in control of my thinking? There's this next clip that from the sermon, you talk about holding the possibility, right? So I think that this is what we can all practice this week. I'm going to play this one and then we'll digest.
Now, what is and isn't possible is not really my concern.
Come on.
Stay with me. My concern is to hold the possibility.
Wait a minute. I got to pause that. I got to say that real quick. He said, how it's going to happen is not my concern, right? I want to run that back real quick. I don't want y'all to miss that because I think I cut the repetition of it. All right, let's go.
Now, what is and isn't possible is not really my concern. Stay with me. My concern is to hold the possibility, not to hold whether or not it is or isn't possible. Why? Because that's the concern of creation.
That's right.
Creation can work with whether or not what I see as possible becomes possible. We're not going to get to this talk on substance this morning, but if we did get to the talk on substance, I could bring you up to speed and say, as I hold the possibility, holding the possibility begins to shape the substance that brings the thing into form through the creative process. So I don't have to trip on whether or not it is or isn't possible. All I have to do is work the principle and work the process, and then the impossible becomes.
So I think that might have been my favorite. No, this next one coming is, I think, my favorite one in the lesson. Talk to us a little bit more about this idea of the possibility, whether or not it's possible.
So let me tie it to the conversation about chemicalization, right? Because what's happening within us when we experience this new possibility, this new opportunity, what we're really wrestling with is the present versus the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And up to this point, it's been impossible for me. If it hasn't shown up in my life yet, it's been impossible. So part of that process of chemicalization is the doubt and the negativity reminding me that no, that's not possible. If it were possible, you would have already done it before, right? So as I'm contemplating the possibility, there's this conversation happening inside of me. It's a mental and emotional conversation that's saying, what you see as possible is not possible based purely on the fact that you haven't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So if I hold to the possibility, what holding to that possibility does is quiet that negative voice. It quiets the doubt. It quiets the negativity, because my focus is not on the doubt and the negativity. My focus is on the possibility. And in holding the possibility, as I just said in the clip, I am actively shaping divine substance. Now, that's a part of the process that goes underappreciated, but it's eminently important.
Mm-hmm.
The more I hold the possibility, the more work I'm doing in shaping the impossible. So as I hold it, not focusing on whether or not it's possible or impossible, as I commit to holding it, as I ask myself time and time again, will you continue to hold this image of your body as a possibility? Will you continue to hold this image of success as a possibility? Will you continue to hold this image of health as a possibility? The more times I say yes in holding that, the better job I'm doing of shaping the substance that attracts to me everything I need, not some things, but everything I need in order to make that impossibility a reality. And before you know it, just as all of us have experienced in our lives, the thing that we at one stage thought we couldn't do or thought was impossible, we've lived into that very thing. And the way we did it was by continuing to hold to it and not giving any more power to that part of us that said it couldn't be done, it was impossible.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the just thinking about, again, because I'm speaking, I'm speaking to them feelings I saw in the chat, right? That feeling of being disappointed, of being hurt, that the this idea of holding the possibility. Sometimes when the appearances don't match yet, when they don't match, that's why he said hold the possibility. When the appearance doesn't match yet, we'll say that the game is over, right? Oh, it didn't happen, but we have to hold the possibility. So whatever idea, whatever image of the world that you inhabit, whatever that image is, we have to hold on to it no matter what appears.
And
then I would
Rev, even before I go to envisioning what the new world looks like, I can just simply hold the possibility for what a shift in my emotional state is.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like as the fear and disappointment and disillusionment is trying to press in, I can hold the possibility for what it feels like to be in control of my thoughts and my emotions. And if you've ever at any point shifted from one emotional state to another, this moment is no different. If you've ever had an argument with a friend and there was this emotional tension, and then the two of you got on the phone and talked it out and talked it through, and by the time that conversation was over, you no longer felt the same way, and they were back to being the love of your life as a good friend, then you know how to shift yourself from one emotional state to another. But if I feed into, oh, they did this to me and they did that to me, and holding on to how that made me feel and overlooking completely what I did to add to it, then that will be what grows in me as well. So at this stage, depending upon where you are on that feeling wheel, I would say start small. You know what I'm saying? Like start right where you are. Start with grounding yourself. Start with shifting how you feel, or transcending, which we know really means just ending the trance of the mental or emotional state you're in. Just start right there. Just start working your stuff right where you are. And as you shift, your perspective of the world will shift. Your perspective of what's possible will shift. Your perspective of what this result means can shift. Doesn't mean you have to, like, shifting my emotion didn't change the result. It simply changed where I stood in relation to the result.
Yes. And so this lesson, and Gavin, I have a question for you. This lesson is about affirmation and denial, right? Mm-hmm. These tools for changing your energy, for changing your consciousness. And so I did not pull all the clips. I pulled the clips. I'm not going to play all the clips I pulled, but I want you to listen to the lesson. But the idea that you have the power to shape your world through these tools is what's at the heart of what we're talking about. Yes. And so the way that I hold on to the possibility is also by denying the lie. It's denying that I can't have, as far as I can see, that I can't have what I have said yes to. Gab, I want you to, I'm putting you on the spot first. So what affirmation are you holding and that you can share with everybody today?
For me, it's, and you may regret that you asked me. For me, it's when I show up, God shows up. Like, that's my affirmation. That is, like, I am an expression of God that is expressing so fully that I can help move the consciousness of those around me. And I just say that over and over again because, number one, if I allow God to use me, I know that I'm blessed first. That's just the law. Two, the way things have changed socially, because I don't want to get away from the social and politics with the spirituality. Great leaders have changed consciousness. Marcus Garvey was changing consciousness. Malcolm X was changing consciousness. Martin Luther King was changing consciousness, not only of those who were oppressed, but of those who saw oppressed people as less than children of God. Like, consciousness changing is the business. So my affirmation is, that's right, when I show up, God shows up.
Yeah. Good one. Rev, give me yours.
So mine is all things are working together for my good.
Yes, sir.
Right. All things are working together for my good. And it doesn't matter what that thing is, it's working together for my good. If there's a seed of good in it, that's my seed. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody else can't have their seed of good in the same thing, but all things work together for my good.
I see it in the chat. Shamika said, today I've been working with God is all there is. God is all there is.
Excellent.
That's a good one. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to play this last clip. Yeah, this was my favorite. I always pull my favorite things, but this one's my favorite.
When I'm working with the early stages of consciousness, catching, denying, and then feeling back up that which I've denied with the affirmation, that's not the right time for the how question. The only question I have to ask myself at this early stage is, am I committed to holding on to the possibility until it shows up? Will I keep affirming no matter what?
So I pulled this because how often gets in the way for me, right? Because I kind of want to know, how is this going to work out? Like, I don't, how is it going to work out? You know, and I trust that it's going to work out, but I get fixated on the how. And I love the way that you said, that's not where you're putting your attention right now. You got to stay focused on the what, right? Before you're trying to dip into the how. How's none of your business.
Yeah. And I know all three of us are howers. So,
Right.
and I know plenty of the folks in the chat and plenty of the folks who watch this later, like a lot of howers. And there's absolutely a time where the how is unavoidable. But it's often not at the beginning of the process, right? Because if you get bogged down in the how at the beginning and you're not able to fill in all the blanks for the how, that can be another source of discouragement and disappointment. So how will we navigate the next 4 years? How will things turn out 4 years from now? How will the guy who just got elected impact me and my family? I'm not trying to answer that how question right now. The question I'm trying to answer right now is, how can I stand in my divinity in this moment, be a source of light as we're walking through this territory, and how can I make the most of my divine potential by using what I've been given to make the most of this now moment? And the how, for how I'm supposed to navigate tomorrow, that'll present itself when it's time.
So there's a question in the chat. I think that this will be a really good one for us to have to talk about. And here's, we're coming to the bottom of our hour, but I do want to let you know that if you have questions, if you have concerns, we'll stay on. Yes, y'all good staying on a little bit if you need to, if people need to be. Okay. All right. So we'll deal with your questions. So Ella shared, how can you walk us through the continuum? Thought, holding the possibility, feeling the emotion, and manifesting the result for your life. My challenge has been in keeping my emotion elevated.
The feelings get attacked first. Like that, you know, that's the first thing that gets attacked is the feelings. You know, just, you know, watching television. Like I said, I stayed up through the whole thing. 3:30. I was just like, okay, this is it. But you know, the feeling of, wait, will women still have rights? Will, you know, people's families get separated and deported, so on and so. That's all attacking the feeling. What happens is, like you said, we have to acknowledge that feeling, LBG, but we have to recognize. I like to say, recognize where you're living, recognize where you're sleeping. Are you dwelling in it? You know, the 91st Psalm says, no, you have to dwell in the shadow of the Father. That's how you get your blessing. So, like, don't necessarily fight against the feeling immediately. Go through it and then decide. And sometimes, here's what I do, Ella. I decide a time. I said, I'm gonna give this until 5 o'clock today. I'm gonna give this until Friday of next week. Then after that, I'm done with it.
Mhm.
This is a temporary station. I'm camping here. I'm in a sleeping bag here, but it's not comfortable. I need to get to my comfortable living, and just give yourself a deadline on the feeling piece.
Mhm.
Then that's the very next step in that continuum. But trying to jump that step is tough.
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember that when the feeling nature gets overly charged, it oftentimes comes at the expense of the creativity of our thinking capacity, right? So, like, people say they're so angry they see red,
Right.
and that's all they see. When they're seeing red, they're no longer considering how to navigate through the experience, right? What solution and options do I have in this moment that can shift this experience for me? The the red doesn't allow them to see that. I've had a couple of experiences where as I was experiencing or witnessing people be hijacked emotionally, that they stopped making decisions that were in their best interest. And I wasn't surprised, because that's how it works, right? So it's important to remember that you have to calibrate your emotional state if you want to engage all of your faculties in navigating the experience. So if I feel my emotions getting too far out of balance or out of bounds, that's when you know it's time to think another thought, because the emotion follows the thought, right? Once it's directed. But we also know that the the impulse can deal directly with the feeling nature, right? It can skip your conscious mind. And when it skips the conscious mind, that means some other source, some other channel is directing how you feel, not you.
And practically, just for me, I can interrupt my thoughts with music. So if I find myself just kind of caught in a loop, like, I'll argue with people in my own mind, but I don't even around. They didn't even get to hear my good arguments.
That's right. Right.
But I'm just so
That's
angry
right.
that I'm laying
That's
on
right.
this great argument. I'm in the shower. I'm walking. And so my thoughts have been hijacked. I can interrupt that by, like, listening to certain songs for a couple hours, just as a practical way to at least stop the cycle. And then I can get to a new thought, because sometimes it's hard for me to get from this negative cycle of thinking to the next, but it's different for everyone. And everyone has to find, like, what's your interrupting switch?
Yep.
Like that breaker.
I think that on my very best days, my emotions are like in check, right? But the rest of those days, what I do is I go back to, okay, what's the truth? So I've asked a question, because I will talk to myself and I can respond to the question, what's the truth about this? Because I know that feeling is helping me to see where my belief is, right? What do I really believe to be true? So you talked about the continuum. I would say that you have the thought, what is the desire, right? What is the desire? And sometimes if you go right back through that, wait a minute, what do I really want? What do I really desire? Because sometimes that can be so vague. And then the idea is, can I say yes to that? Do I believe that I can have what I desire? Do I believe it's in the realm of possibility? All right. Because then I may right there need to work with that. I need to work on it being believing it's possible for me.
Yeah.
Many of us have a vision of a world that works for everyone, but don't believe that we'll ever get there. Right. And so all that's going to happen is you're going to continue to fulfill that prophecy that you see. You're going to get what you see, what you really believe. And so what I want to do is, I believe in that in the scripture, help my unbelief. So I don't know. This is why I focused on feelings first, because this is what I know I have needed for my own personal growth, is that I will bypass the feelings because I know the truth. And so I need to deal with my feelings, because my feelings are telling me what I believe. They're telling me some of the places in my belief that need to be helped. Right? Where are those places I need to help my unbelief? So, don't fight with the fact that your emotions, keeping your emotions elevated. Let them be feedback. Let them be feedback on the places where hey, well, here's some space I need to show up. So then now I know. So I used to wear glasses and I went and got LASIK surgery. And in that pursuit, they were showing me like there are different size lasers that you can pay for based on how much money you have, right? You can get a laser. I want the tiniest laser you have because I want my vision to be corrected at the best possible laser level you have, right? That's how I want my affirmations and denials to work. I don't want to just say God is good. I want to hit my unbelief. And if I don't believe, I believe God is good, but maybe God's not good to me, or that I'm not worthy of that good in some way. I want to be able to speak an affirmation now that lasers in on that unbelief, because I want to be done with. I want that clean vision. I want that 2020 vision. I want to experience the good desire in my heart. So thank you for that question, because I think that process, right? Rev gave us a process to work with in order to shift our awareness, so we can shift our consciousness, so we can shift our experience.
Rev, let me just say, so I think the techniques you two gave are excellent, right? One, like just knowing what you can use to interrupt the pattern, that emotional pattern, I think is amazing. Asking yourself a question is amazing, because the question, when you present it to yourself, it's not directed to your emotions. It's directed to your intellect, which means you're forcing yourself to do a hard reset.
Yeah.
So if you consider that question, the moment you start thinking about that, you invite a different emotional state the moment you start thinking about that. So I just want to say, I think both of those are excellent.
Yeah. So and if you all have some practices that you are that have been effective for you, like that's what community is about. Like, share that practice. I know people who journal, they will sit and write things out. And for me, I know sometimes just talking out loud, like, so it's important that I have good people around me, and people of like mind, and people who are ahead of me, right? Who I feel are working with the principles at a level that's higher than me. And I appreciate the way that they are practicing and living, because I can have a conversation that helps elevate me. I can begin to, or I can call, and I might be in that place you were talking about, Ella, where your emotions are not great. They're not reflecting your greatness, right? And they can help me to get back into the right mindset. They can help me to see it from a higher perspective. So community is so important.
I think people should use that. There's a button for those of you that are on Facebook or Instagram where you can, without dropping a friend, you can mute the friend.
Yeah.
There are seasons where you have to click that mute button.
Yeah.
They keep showing up in your feed. You're ready to move and think about other things and pray on other things and affirm other things. But as soon as you go on, there's this group of people that you may not want to block, but you want to mute them. Use it early and often. Use that mute button, use the block button if you have to, because it is your consciousness you are working with. Yep. And if you don't have time for it now, I love what Kai said, holding us up together. But if there was someone in your feed that was breaking you down, mute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mute.
I'll unmute you after Christmas. After I can't hear you right now.
That's right.
Because
I'm looking for my good.
There's a lesson I gave at Up Church a couple weeks ago, and I talked about peace. I think was Sunday. It might have been Sunday. It was about peace, right? So the acrostic I gave for peace was: protect your inner calm, embrace differences, allow grace, choose unity, and extend forgiveness. And so in some spaces, you may need to like Gav said, to mute somebody, because I need to get to a space where I can extend forgiveness, that we don't see each other eye to eye. I need to allow grace, because maybe people are working with this at a different space than you're in, and so their need to vent and it's just where they are, right? And it's like, I'm going to bless you where you are. It doesn't have to hurt me where I am,
right? But
I can bless you where you are. And I don't have to entertain your thoughts, your every thought every day. So that's why that mute button is right there. Thank you for reminding me of that button, because there's also some fun stuff to read. There's also some things that help me, like you said, that thought interruption. There's some good things that I ingest. If you are following me on social, follow everybody that you see here on social. I don't know why our things aren't up there. You can find me at Rev Sheree Speaks. Rev, where can I find you?
That's a great question.
Rev Derrick, you can find me at Rev Derrick Wells.
Rev Derrick Wells.
And you can find me at Gavin R. Jackson or Lord Gavin J.
I know I'm out there somewhere. I know I'm out there somewhere.
So yeah, I mean, and I try to put some good stuff out of the atmosphere. But I want to encourage you to take care of yourselves. Like, this is a space where we can love up on ourselves real strong, love up on the people around us, because that feeling of helplessness that you may be feeling is always overwhelmed and overcome with love. And so I want to encourage you to love and love deeply. And even if it's just loving up on yourself, like I have different practices. Gavin is listening to his music or whatever. Sometimes a good shower and lotioning and blessing and just being in a space of, I'm just taking care of myself and I'm cleansing off. I take spiritual showers. I cleanse, and that water is washing away all of the negative thoughts, all of the negative experiences. I just allow that to be a physical representation of what I'm working on in my mind and my heart. So, so yeah, work those practices. Thank you, Doc, for putting the handles in the Facebook chat. We appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to wrap us out. I think. What are we doing? Somebody said my subconscious was kicking my butt. I'm not talking about Ella. We just gonna keep it 100 up in here. All right. I'm over here flying with these
like
high metaphysicians. So
it's like that, right? But those subconscious reactions show you exactly where you are, and there is no getting around that. Like, it shows you exactly where the opportunity to grow is, and that's good feedback. That's good feedback. Yes. It's nothing to be disappointed about. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just good feedback, so you know where you need to put the work in.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for jumping on. I know that I reached out to Rev and asked, like, we need to have a conversation about this, and he was like already on top of that. So thank you, Gav, jumping on, and this is only Gavin's second time on the Rewind.
It's my third time.
Okay, his is third. No, so I don't mean to call you out, but let me call you out, because what used to happen is that Gavin, I don't think, really wanted to do the Rewind. And so what he would do is conveniently have a life emergency where he couldn't jump on. But see, it's over. You broke through.
I broke through.
And you are here. I'm so grateful for this space. I'm so grateful for this teaching. I mean, everything that you've heard here, there's something you can give to someone else, that you can be a beacon of light. And like Gavin said, first you're blessed, right? And then you begin to be a blessing to others. So let's take care of one another. Let's love one another. That's what this community is all about. Is supporting you in your spiritual growth, and nothing like a collective life experience that helps us to grow together. So I don't want to in corporate communications, we say don't waste a good crisis, right?
That's right.
Don't waste a good crisis. And so this is coming. Like, let's grow through this. What if you were better on the other side of this? What if your life completely transformed in ways that you had just been dreaming about? What if that's possible? It's possible.
Many people will be. Why not you?
Why not me? Why not me? Yeah, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that right there. So we'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the lesson sermon. And I'm just grateful again for this space where we get to share honestly and openly. And I'm grateful for you all. I trust this has been helpful for you. I do want to encourage you to share it, right? Go ahead and share this video with people in your community, and help us to grow this community, because we're doing a mighty work in the world. You can on Sundays, you can find wherever you are in the world, CU Temple on YouTube. The services are, you can connect through the Facebook group to the greater Christ Universal Temple family. But if you want to come in here and rock and roll with the collective, we would love to have you. We have a Facebook group that is especially for the collective, and we're just growing and growing, doing this work, and enjoying every piece of it. That's what I have to say. I'll pray us out unless you have something to say, Rev.
No, I think it's good stuff. Good conversation. Good conversation in the chat. I believe this conversation, we'll have the opportunity to bless some folks as they kind of recalibrate themselves into this upcoming season. But God is still mighty in the midst.
Absolutely. God is still mighty in the midst. And so we just move from this space knowing and trusting that God is in charge.
Amen.
And all is well and well indeed. And so it is.
So it is.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
God bless y'all.
Peace and
Thanks,
blessings, gang.
friends.
Love you guys.
Love you guys. And we will see each other next week at some time that Rev is available. God bless.